What up, what up? We're coming in hot. Another episode of Camp Content. We are super excited for today's guests. I know I am very much so. Jessica is one of my favorite people who I always love to see when I'm out in podcast convention land. But Jessica Kupferman is the CEO and co-founder of She Podcast, which is one of the biggest, women-centered podcast convention in the world. I'm going to go ahead and say that. It might not be true, but it is today on this show.
It's true.
Exactly. And so Jessica has a media background. She has owned a media agency. Hold on, I got to find my notes here. Since 2005 with a JK Media, which I assume is Jessica Kupferman Media, not Just Kidding Media, but that wouldn't surprise me with your amazing sense of sarcasm.
I like the double entendre of it.
Just kidding. So 2005, Jessica opened her first agency and had tremendous amounts of success with that. And then 2013 started her first podcast, Lady Business Radio, which I love that name because it makes you really wonder. And from there, she grew that community kind of almost by accident in a sense, but grew an amazing community through fostering those relationships, having a podcast with her business partner, and really growing the community that is She Podcast. I always recommend it to people who are in the industry and want to place a safe place to be able to talk shop without being mansplained. What I love about She Podcast is not only the event, it's just it's like nothing else. It's such a wonderful experience, honestly, to spend so much time with other women and humans who identify as women. It's just a welcoming, diverse space. There's no other diversity like there is at She Podcast, and so I'm always grateful for that. One of the core tenements of She Podcast, and this is directly from their mission statement, they believe in leading with integrity, in providing a space where women lift each other up, in respectful debate, in inclusion and diversity, and in being mindful of our carbon footprint, and they believe that every voice matters. And so I am down with all of that, and every single one of those things is evident in all of the events they do and the podcast they host and the content they create. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jessica Kupferman to Camp Content today. Welcome.
Thank you so much. What a lovely, I don't even need to say anything now. Thank you. That was amazing. What a sales pitch. I'd like to keep that and use it.
Hey, listen, I'll follow you around. I'll be your hype man. I'll be like,
eloquent.
put it together, people.
I loved it.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. As you know, I love you and I'm excited to be on your show. So
well, the feeling is 100% mutual. I really do love She Podcast. It's just such a special thing. It's a special event where you can just really let your hair down and feel comfortable and connect with other women and learn or just drink wine or sit at the pool or all of the above. And I think those spaces are so important. And like I said, nobody has as much diversity in race and gender and age as, well, not gender, obviously, She Podcast, but in age. You see a lot of younger, more diverse content creators at She Podcast than you do at any other convention. So shout out to you for that.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, it's nice that I do think that Elsie and I originally made specific effort to foster a group of people that were respectful and considerate and, lead with the intention to help instead of coming from a place of need or want. So but it kind of attracts that now, and we're really lucky.
It's amazing, honestly. The last She Podcast that I went to, I was just in Arizona. It was just so nice after the pandemic to just connect with everybody and hang out with people again. God, that was so nice.
In the open air, it was really nice.
It really was, even in Arizona. Yeah. I'm just kidding.
Even in freaking Arizona, I know. Boy, I actually had you say that jokingly, but I actually had a really hard time with them when the pandemic started. They did not want to reschedule, and it was set for October 2020. And it took them like 3 or 4 months to even admit there was a pandemic. And even, I don't know if you guys remember, because like the West Coast wasn't having a lot of trouble until like May.
No.
They were free and clear. And then May, it was Arizona specifically that skyrocketed up. Mm-hmm. And then I called the hotel and I was like, well, you have to admit it now. You have to admit it now. Yeah. You can't come. We're not coming. But it took 3 months of me being like, what are you doing to me? I cannot, I'm like, speaking of content marketing, right? Like I'm trying to promote the event, but then also I'm like, please come speak at my event and march to your death. Like
Exactly.
it was terrible.
Could have just done it in Florida where there never was a pandemic.
I mean, right.
Exactly.
So it's exactly like that. Actually, I also found out, I don't know if I should say this. Don't be mad at me, anyone who went there. I found out that like a couple weeks prior, they had the convention for what's the group? QAnon.
Oh no.
I know. I just happened to like, I don't know how I came across it, but I happened to come across like I don't know, like something on Facebook that said it was in Arizona. And then I was like, oh no, not my hotel in Arizona. Oh no. And I looked and I was like, but it was like a month away. There's nothing I could do about it by then.
Yeah. I mean,
But yeah. Anyway.
it is what it is.
Yeah. But I mean, no, I'm lucky. Like, yeah, young and old people are, they intermingle. The speakers intermingle with the attendees and everyone feels equal to each other, which I really love because, I have definitely, even at all women's events, felt a very specific hierarchy between speakers and attendees at bigger events that were women focused I'm lucky it worked out that way. And grateful because and actually I was just going through the speaker list. Like, I have a friend that's going to do like a, women of color spotlight on the speakers, and each person I was like, I love this woman. She's amazing. This one's great. Like, I love going through the speakers and seeing who's there because they're all like, God, they're amazing. You're amazing. We're all amazing.
We're all amazing. Well, you're creating that platform. A lot of times people say we're giving people a voice, and I think that's just so like arrogant. Like everybody has a voice. It's a platform that they need, and that's what you've done.
Yeah, true.
You've created a platform for people to really express themselves, be themselves, share their knowledge, and enjoy that. Like one of my favorite things is when you guys have like a dance party towards the end of the night in the convention, and it's like all these women just dancing and being free from any kind of like skeeviness and stuff. It's just, and then you see all these women hanging out that probably wouldn't hang out normally otherwise, but they've been thrown in this situation and they're like besties now. So it's really great. So to talk a little bit about your podcast, I listen to it quite often, actually. I'll see a notification, nice. I'll jump in and chime in with my little. I
had no idea. Lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
Well, and what I really love about it is like the relationship that you have with Elsie and how you guys are so different, but you really respect each other and that you've been doing this stuff for a long time together. How has the podcast helped, She Podcast, or how what is having that podcast done for building your businesses?
So, we've had the show for 9 years and we met in an online course. We were taking an online business course together to put our, out of online businesses online. And I didn't really cross paths with that much because she was a yogi and I hate exercise. So like we didn't really like, I mean, I knew her and I respected her. And then I didn't realize that she was even in podcasting until I started a show. And then she happened to be like, hey, I can do, I think she was like low on rent one month. And she was like, I need this much money. And here's the things I can offer. And one of them was podcast marketing. And I was like, oh my God, thank God, because I can't grow this thing. And I don't know why. So first I was her client. Then we went to an event together. And then we started the group. But we were not best friends at first. But we were like respectful colleagues. Right. And like slowly over the course of the show, we started pushing each other like the way you would, like in my opinion, in order to be a true friend to someone, you have to call them on their crap and catch them when they're lying to themselves or when they're not being fair to other people. So like I can catch her when she's lying to herself. She catches me when I'm being like standoffish or flippant about other people's dilemmas. Like I can just be like, oh fuck that guy, you know what I mean? But
can't relate.
But I mean, I'd never had like a positive business partner experience before, and so it really taught me a lot about. It's not just about like equal work, although that is a big part of it. It's also about like the things that the other person doesn't want to do, doesn't want to talk about, doesn't want to think about, and vice versa. So like she does not ever want to talk about money, sponsorship, advertising, making it into a business. And I really don't need, I don't mind talking about it, but I don't need to talk about like the altruistic, like, I mean, the platform and who we highlight is really important to me, but I guess I'm saying like, I don't necessarily go out of my way to find people to bring in the fold or to support. Like I'm getting there, but, we're just different that way. Like she's always heart first and I'm always head first, like I lead with my logic and her with her heart. So it works out. It worked out so much better than I could have ever planned. It must have been fate because who knew? And I think it helps the business because, between the two of us, there's something for everyone, I think. Like, she's, like I said, she's a master yogi and she leads with intention and she's a woman of color and she's a social justice warrior. And I'm take nothing seriously, including myself. And I'm sarcastic and hilarious in case you haven't noticed yet, those of you who are listening. And so between the two of us, I think every woman can be like, yeah, I totally relate to that.
For sure.
For
sure. And you can,
I think that's how it helps.
For sure. And you can ping pong
Good
between
balance
the
to
two.
have too. The head first and the heart first person.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I'm like, yeah, Elsie, I agree. And then sometimes I'm like, yeah, Jess, I agree. Wait, so it's like you can find a little bit of yourselves in both of you, honestly. It's a good combination. I feel like you both are very real, very authentic. And I think we need more of that, less of the polished, this is what I want you to see versus like, no, this is what we actually talk about. And like you said, calling each other out when you're being ridiculous. I think that's human growth, right? Like we don't get any better if we don't ever look at ourselves a little bit. So
yeah, and so in that way, it's good. I mean, yeah, that's good for business too. Like, because we also are like, like she does a good job of being like for example, I think I'm not announcing it or anything, but like we were looking into starting a 501c3, and like first thing she does is be like, okay, Jessica, it's going to have to be like, we're going to have to highlight this person, I mean, like she's already with who we're supporting and I'm already like, who's going to support us?
Right.
Right. Like my first thing is who's supporting the charity. And then she's like, who can we support? So it works out really good when it comes to business stuff, oddly well. So it's good.
That's great. And so She Podcast is on its 5th or 6th year?
No, third. Believe it or not. I would say 5th year.
Oh,
because we started in 2019,
right.
But then we did 2021, and now it's 2023. So technically, it should be 5 years, but it's only the third one, and I'm excited.
So how much
Washington,
has
DC.
it changed? Because obviously, the first time you throw a convention like that, it's probably a lot of stuff that goes wrong, and then now I guess being 5th year but third one, how have you adjusted it? What have you learned? Has it gotten easier?
It's not gotten easier, but that should not have been like when I did the event. It was because when I did the event, it was because people were asking for it. They couldn't wait to have it, and it went really well the first year. And then the pandemic was like 4 months later, and so it has been really hard. Like that one in Arizona was very, very difficult. It was like pulling teeth. Like the amount of people that were there, I was overjoyed. But I probably could have used another 200 to break even, to be honest with you. So like, it was really hard. And this one has been difficult. Like I would actually not like to change it too much year over year. This particular year, we wanted to be on the East Coast because I had never done anything drivable. Like it's my third one. And like, I've been flying all over the, continent trying to get stuff in place. So this time I was just like, can I just have one place one time where I just drive there or, and I don't have to fly. So we chose a hotel in DC that is gorgeous, but I don't know that I would pick this caliber of a hotel again partially because, it's a little more expensive than the other hotels we've chosen. And partially because we don't need that to be together. Like we don't need, I mean, it is sparkly and fancy and pretty. And there's like an enormous art installation in the lobby and all over the hotel. And it has 15 restaurants, it's fancy and it'll be great to eat and stuff. But like, as a group, we don't need that. Like I was fighting with the hotel so much in Arizona. And my event planner was like, well, what are we going to do? They're not going to come. I'm like, these women will sleep in the parking lot. They don't care.
Seriously.
I could have it literally anywhere. And they will just be like, sleeping bags in the parking lot hotel. I'm on it. Who's got the pillows? Like, they don't care.
Right.
So I chose this hotel because it was close and because they had the time that we wanted. But then, trying to sell it was a little more difficult because we just don't need to spend that kind of money on, like, I want the atmosphere. I want the ambiance. But I think next time we do it, I can do it without having to be like at the Ritz. Like I didn't realize it was like a Ritz kind of hotel when I signed,
Yeah. Who needs to eat and be bougie when we're just here to podcast?
It's
and
fun.
and
I mean,
network.
but I do want them to eat and be bougie. I just
That's
don't
fair.
want them to have to pay for it more. I don't want to have to
Right.
pay for it more. Like we don't like paper flowers are just as good as whatever crazy, art stuff they have going on. I
For
think.
sure. Yeah, it's at the Gaylord, Matt. So, it's going to be...
No, it's MGM.
Oh, it's at the
MGM.
MGM.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, yeah.
It's at the MGM
We're going to
National Harbor.
podcast and we're going to put 50 on red. We're going to go through
It's
some craps.
it is a Vegas hotel in the middle of Washington,
Yeah.
D.C.
Yeah.
And I mean, it is cool. I'm not trying to ditch the hotel in any way. It's going to be one of the coolest experiences ever, probably of my life.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I need to do it again.
Yeah. It could be like a one every few years things. Hey, this is the year we're going to pop off again.
The one in Scottsdale, like it wasn't too fancy of a hotel, but because the outside is fancy. That's I think where I want to go next year. Like I want the outside to be fancy. Let the fresh air,
Yeah, just some good warm weather.
I think
so,
palm
too.
trees and
let the fresh air
Yeah.
be enamor you. And then the inside doesn't matter. But in this case, it's Washington, D.C. The inside has to matter because who knows what's going to happen outside. Like at any given time, it could rain. It could, it could be too hot, too humid. Like every month on the East Coast is like, I mean, you lived in D.C., it's a crapshoot every day.
Yeah, there's like
Right.
9 different seasons, and like right now they're in the seasons that's like the what do they call it? Like the fake spring, where you think it's spring and you
Yeah.
get all excited, and then it like snows.
that was last week, yeah, when it was like
Last
70
week it was
every
like
week. and then
75 degrees.
now
Today
it's, like,
it's raining
sleeted
and
snowed
35.
yesterday.
Yeah, it sucks here.
Yep.
It's terrible. So I think instead of using the hotel for ambiance, next time I'll try to use the outside again. I was thinking maybe San Diego, somewhere where there's a beach.
Ooh, see, I love that because I think when I really think back to all the most memorable experiences that I had at She Podcast, they were all outside. It was sitting at the pool bar,
Yes, me
or
too.
sitting around the pool, all of us laughing and joking with each other. Not caring about how we looked in our bathing suits and just being like
Exactly.
talking shit about the other people at the hotel. Remember that one guy? Oh my god! But like,
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one guy.
Yeah.
Where you were like everyone was sitting in their bathing suits and being completely not self-conscious, and I was like, in my head I was like, except for the one guy.
except for the one guy, and there he was
There's the one guy
representing
that's,
for
like,
all
creeping everybody out.
one guys in the world,
Oh.
I think. But yeah, all
Yeah,
the
he was a-
experiences, or sitting
That
on
was a
one of
wild
the
card.
little couches, or sitting in one of the little like fire pit. There's a lot of my memories are
Yes.
outside, and you're right, because you go to Orlando, which, like, oh my god, no offense to anybody doing stuff in Orlando, but I really don't want to spend $2,500 to go to Orlando again. So like, I love that you move it around, because it's like, at least send me someplace else, but not Orlando. I can't spend more money to
Yeah.
go to Orlando, and then it's so hot outside that you don't really want to be outside, and then you're just breathing recycled air all week, and you're walking. So I think you're onto
know.
something there. I think
agree.
San Diego would be lovely, and to have beach experiences and spend more time
Yeah.
outside, getting some actual
Beach
sunshine.
party.
I think
Yeah.
you're onto something.
There's so much. I mean, you don't even need to. The beach in San Diego is not even the thing, right? Because that weather is always freezing, flipping cold. But like
Right.
everything is cool outside in San Diego. It's always like when my sister lives here. When I first visited her, I'm like, "What should I pack? What's the weather?" She just gave me a thumbs up. She's like, "It's this all the time, thumbs up," and I was like, "Cool." I mean, yeah, it's like 75 all
Yeah.
the time. It's beautiful. And actually, I mean, the reason I started bouncing is because I wanted to go to cities I'd never been before.
Right.
Like I'd never been to Phoenix. I'd never been to Atlanta. That was the first one. I mean, obviously I grew up in Washington, DC, but like I said, I just needed a break where I could drive somewhere.
Yeah.
And I've been to San Diego because my sister lives there, but like, I don't know, Malibu, Monterey. There's tons of different
Yeah.
I feel
places
like
we
that's
could
also
go
going to
with nice
retain people that come, get new people that come. Because if you're just doing, like Molly said, Orlando every single year, people are like, I can skip this one because we're going to go back there. And 2 years. Whereas like you move it,
Yeah.
and then there's like, oh, local people see it pop up, boom, and then they get on the train and want to keep traveling to the next one. And
Yeah, and I'm also like you said, yeah, I like the idea that like East Coasters can have easier access 1 year, West
Yeah.
Coasters can have easier access 1 year. I think it's only fair.
I agree.
You know?
I agree. Well, and it's so ironic you're doing it in DC because I live in Costa Rica now. I'm like, son of a, like
I know.
it would have
I
been
know.
literally
That's your
20
choice,
minutes
man.
from my house before.
I know. That's a shame. It's bad. Yeah, I mean, I know it would have been. Yeah.
But I'd still
I grew up
rather
in
live in
Frederick,
Costa Rica
so it's-
than be 20 minutes away.
Yeah, you got the life. Don't complain.
Fair
You
enough.
look you with your like bleached under eye. You have the under eyes of a rested, no childless woman. Is what you have.
That's denial right there. That's what I use.
You have no dark circles, no wrinkles. You're like living the dream,
girl,
baby.
what-
I'm like growing. What are you talking about? You look 30.
30
You don't sound
plus
30.
27. Yeah. Wait. I'm going to start lying up. I'm going to tell everybody I'm 10 years older than I am. So people are like, you look amazing for 57.
You look young, but I mean, then you open your mouth. Like,
I get that a lot, shockingly. It's not the
but
first
you
one.
look young. You look like a young Irish princess, and then
I just
you're
nod
like,
and
"What's
smile.
up, assholes?"
And
Yeah.
I keep my then I sound like a truck driver. Anytime anybody ever imitates me, they're like, I'm like, why does everyone do that? Like when anyone mocks me or tries to sound like me, they make me sound like a truck driver.
I mean, I would just do like more of a bored, like irritated, "Why am I here?" kind of voice. Like, this is my Molly.
I know. I was telling Matt, like I listen to our podcast and I'm like, why do I sound and look so angry all the time? I'm really not. But
See, I think I sound like a maniac when I listen to myself. Like, I'm like, I don't know where she got this annoying spastic energy, but please stop talking. That's how I hear myself. I'm just like, she sounds like a fucking maniac, like a maniacal.
you're
That's
so
all I hear.
funny. That same thing. I just text Matt earlier. I'm like, I just listened to our last podcast and like, why can't I just shut the fuck up? I'm talking more than the guest. I was like, he's like, no, it's a good episode. I know, but like, I really need to speak less. Like, good Lord. But hey, man,
I
that's how
think
you get
that's
better,
true.
right? You listen to your own content, you cringe a little bit, but you hopefully get a little better next time, or you just accept and love yourself exactly as who you are.
I mean, it's hard though. Like after every interview like this, I almost always email the host and go, "Thank you so much for having me. I hope I didn't talk too much." Every time. I'll probably do it today because I'll be like, "I hogged the show," but I'm the guest.
You're the guest.
Right,
You're
like, I'm
supposed to hog the show. I hogged the last
still,
show. I
like-
wasn't the
but
guest.
it's not.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean. Like you don't want to hog the show if it's not your show.
Well, you know, I invited you on here to make you the star because I really do. You know, it's so fun. I was looking at your bios on She Podcast and how you're like, you don't trust anybody, but you'll give everybody the benefit of the doubt. And I was like, oh my God, that's so me. And then Elsie's like sweet on the outside, salty on the inside. I was like, that is so accurate. I love it. Like, I love a good
Yeah.
real bio, you know?
Me too.
So I
Gotta
got to
be
get
real.
into the business of things a little bit, you know.
Let's do it.
Everybody's a big critic, right? You know, I was in, you know, entertainment and, you know, for a long, long time and through big events, and everybody's a critic. Oh, they should have done this. They should have done that. But what people don't understand is there's huge financial risk at stake, right? You know, and you've
Yeah.
definitely dealt with that with not breaking even or COVID. You know, you could really be out of pocket very quickly. And so how do you guys manage, you know, that's a lot of risk. You're taking a lot of risk, right? And the reward can be great, but it's not always financial. So how do you navigate that, and how do you you know, ensure that you can make enough money to keep the lights on, so to speak? Like, how are you getting sponsors? How are you navigating all of that kind of stuff?
Prayer and therapy.
I heard that.
Because like it's not, the first year was financially lucrative, but the last one, the Arizona one, I lost quite a bit of money because I wasn't prepared for the pandemic. And
Right.
this year is a crapshoot. I postponed the event from October to June because we didn't have enough ticket sales. I didn't have enough money.
Right.
So it has to work this time, come hell or high water. So it's a pretty under the gun, stressful experience, and one that I don't know that I will do another event unless I know the way I knew the first time that
Right.
people want it and they want to come and they're going to support it and they're going to sponsor it, et cetera, and so forth. Because an event like that, I see a lot of other event planners that are like, oh, it's a labor of love, but like it shouldn't be that.
No.
I mean, it is nice to hold a space for people, but but I have a pretty good business sense, and I mean, obviously not enough. I mean, like I signed a hotel that was pretty expensive. That wasn't the best decision on my account because I was very like pulled in by. It was right after the Arizona event. I would say, like, if you're an event planner, don't sign right after your event because you're still on a high from being there and the people that are there. But then you don't think like, wait, can I really get this many people at this hotel for this time period? Like in the middle of October, no weekend. Like there's a lot. Like the other thing about this hotel is that it's a casino, which means they don't do events on weekends because that's when the gamblers come. So we have to be in on we start on a Monday and we end on a Thursday because we can't mess with their nut, their gambling nut. So for women, that's not always the best scenario. Like they can't always find daycare in the middle of the week and in October. So I was happy to move it to June because I was like, at least some of these kids will be in summer camp and it won't be an issue. And maybe it will, like free up other women to come. But navigating it's very hard. It's very hard, especially when you have a staff. Like there have been months like between October and now where we haven't had revenue at all, and I just sort of have to float it until it arrives. It's hard.
I get it.
It's really hard.
I get it. My last company, One Love Massive, we did a lot of events and like big events, and you take a big risk. Like I have a friend that does the National Cannabis Festival, and everybody wants to be a critic, and they should do this and they should do that. I'm like, cool. Well, are you putting $750,000 of your own money on the line because? God. She's doing a cannabis festival on federal property. The day of the event, they could just go, nah,
nope,
we're locking the gates. It's a wrap. And she literally loses $1 million, right? So people don't always understand like how much of a risk and the emotional drain of an event, right? And worrying, are people going to come? Have you priced it right? Wanting to give away tickets, but needing people to pay. It's a tricky landscape to navigate for sure. The one thing that I'm, and maybe I should be more active in this role here is, people need a sponsor She Podcast. People need to put their fucking money where their mouth is, right? Like, if you are all about diversity and inclusion and being supportive of women, then sponsor She Podcast. Like, you don't have to be in the podcast industry. Do you want to show up for a whole bunch of women who are like kind-hearted and like, really good people who are trying to create platforms and give people voices and express themselves and create community? Like, if you really about that life, then like sponsor She Podcast. Put that in
comedians.
There. Yeah, because and there's lots. You guys give a lot of opportunities. You can sponsor the key cards for people's hotel rooms. You can sponsor coffee in the morning. You can sponsor a yoga session. It's all stuff that's already like created for you, and you just give them some money, and they put your name all over it. You don't even have to be there. You don't even have to send people there and spend extra money to staff it. Just show up. In fact, it would be even better if you just for once, like in general, like if corporate America could support women without having to make a big deal about the fact that they're supporting women. Maybe you could just cut the check and not have to make a huge deal about it. Maybe you just like, if you really care about diversity and inclusion, then stroke those checks, because these are women who Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say there are a lot of podcasting companies that make a big deal about supporting women and underrepresented voices that don't sponsor me for one reason or another. They do run their own little cohorts where they invite people to learn podcasting from them, which I guess is nice. But I don't know. I just wish that it applied to everyone, I guess. But it doesn't always. It's kind of a shame.
Well, I agree, especially since I guarantee you there's players from those organizations that have been at She Podcast, who have benefited from She Podcast Network, who have benefited from those events, and who have made money off of your audience and your community. They should definitely be buying back into that system instead of just taking from it, right? But I guess at the end of the day, that's what taking space
that would be really nice.
Privilege is all about. So maybe we'll put a little heat on. I'll be your pit bull.
Thank you. I would love that. You're a
can't-
perfect pit bull.
They can't cancel me because I'm not affiliated with She Podcast. You know what I mean? Take it out on me, man. But I really do
can't
feel
really
that
cancel
way
me
because
either.
none of your sponsorship packages are out of control expensive. And I'm sure that you
Not
would be
at all.
willing to work with people if they say, I really like to do this, but I
Absolutely.
got a little less than what you're asking for. I know you'd be willing to make adjustments. And I just hope that we can move into this era of, if you're really about that life, if you're really about diversity and inclusion, and you really, and not just on International Women's Day, but on every day,
right.
then
show
throw
up.
some money at this thing and help us make it sustainable because, nothing can ever be successful if it's not truly sustainable. And if Jess and Elsie are
it's
pushing,
teetering. I'm not gonna lie, it's teetering.
yeah,
It's only March, but I don't know if it's sustainable. I do not have a large enough sample size with 3 events to know if it's sustainable because of pandemic just threw a wrench in everything. So even though I know that most governors have lifted bans on masks, and I mean you can't declare that it's over, but certainly that it's less of a threat if you keep getting vaccinated. It's still not predictable, and I don't gamble.
yeah,
I don't like to gamble. It is a huge risk. I don't like risk. I didn't want to be a risky situation. In fact, that first year I did a Kickstarter to make sure that it wasn't a risky situation. I went out of my way to ensure that I wasn't going to risk too much. But once you're in it and you sign a contract, there was no way to predict that. But
Right.
still, once you're in it, you're obligated
it.
for what's on the paper, whether you can do it or not. So we got to do it, and it's going to be great regardless of how many people are there. But I think the more the merrier, because you just get to know that many more people. You get to, learn that many more things from other people. And yeah, like you said, it's great to be able to sit and chat with people you would never otherwise be able to meet, which I think is so valuable.
Yeah, and you go home with those connections, and you go home feeling, like your cup is full. I got to room with Carrie, in Arizona, and we'd be like, we really need to go to bed. We'd be up until 2 a.m. talking and realize how much our lives parallel one another. We're like, well, no wonder we get along. We're literally the same.
Yeah, I was about to say,
Delightful.
pretty much every time we have a guest on here, it's like them and Molly being like, remember when we did this as She Podcast?
Exactly.
Yeah.
This
Aw.
and this. Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool.
Like
No,
Laura from Shore, and I
love her. Oh yes, I love her.
she was just on last
Yeah, there are
week.
some very cool people to come and hang out with. Absolutely. And look, my whole career started because of an event. I met Elsie in person at an event in Vegas. We started the group. We were only 6 people. I just wanted those 6 people to give me advice. I had no idea that it would be 21,000 people and a podcast and an event and all these other things. But and there are so many people that have told me my entire trajectory changed from coming there because I met this person and then we started doing this together and then this came into that. Or I met my new producer, my new co-host, my new sponsor. So in-person events are life-changing. And if they're fun, all the better.
For sure.
This one's
I
pretty
know
fun.
my space in the podcasting world changed a little bit coming to She Podcast, the Atlanta one. I drove down with my chairs, and I created that little living room, and I did 26 interviews over the course of 3 days.
Yeah, you were busy that weekend.
Oh my! I went to the Airbnb
but it
at
looked
the end of
great.
it and cried for an hour. I was like, I did. It was all over and everything was packed. And I got back to the Airbnb and I just started sobbing. And I was like, I don't even know
Do
why
you know
I'm
why?
crying. I think it was just
You're probably just exhausted.
just exhaustion. And so I wasn't sad, but I was just like, what? But I made friends with people, Jodie Kenny. I made connections with people. That's when I met you.
Love
and
her.
you're all
Yep.
still in my life. You know what I mean? And I'm so
Yeah.
grateful for that. And I think that's what people don't understand. It's always about relationships, right? Everything in life is always about your relationships,
It's true. Are you empathic? That's probably why you cried, because you probably pick up on everyone's energy and it's exhausting.
Oh, for sure.
I'm not empathic, but I'm more observant than empathic, but my husband is. And I know that being around a lot of people, as much as he enjoys being around other people, you just take in what they're holding. It's hard to hold it all. So that's probably why. You just
Well,
have
in
to let it out.
26 interviews, right? And each woman, I was like, so tell me your story. And then interacting on the spot and asking questions.
Right.
So I really enjoyed it. But at the end, I was just like, I got nothing. I'm a void. I'm a void
give me
of
the
darkness.
cartoons and a pizza.
Seriously, I poured a glass of wine and I just cried.
Yeah,
and even at the
exactly.
time, I was like, why am I crying? Like, I even tried to identify the emotion. I was like, I literally cannot figure out why I'm crying, but I couldn't stop for like an hour or so. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Just
so I might
overwhelmed
seem
with emotion.
mean,
That's
but
kind
I'm
of
actually-
nice, actually.
I'm just a big softy, really. I've just been weathered by life. It's not my fault. I'm salty. I blame men.
I
I'm just
like
kidding.
you exactly the way you are. I wouldn't want you to be any other way.
Well, thank
If
you.
you were less salty, I'd be disappointed.
I know, right? Somebody's got to wear that hat. You know what I mean? Somebody's got to be.
Yeah, it may as well be you. And me. I'm pretty salty too
Well,
sometimes. So
We're salty on the outside and sweet on the inside. So there we go.
don't tell anyone.
Yeah, Matt. Well, on that note, I'm gonna put some effort into reaching out to some folks and putting a little pressure on to see who can get you sponsored and get some money in there. I really want to come to She Podcast. I need to chat with you about that.
Okay.
I got to come back anyway. Flights are not cheap. They're like $1,500 from Costa Rica, but
Ouch. What?
I know.
Oh my God.
I know.
Mom.
And then the worst part is you land and you're in DC. It's like,
Oh, I know. What a disappointment.
no,
I
I'm just
know,
kidding.
it's true.
I shouldn't say that. I love DC. I just moved away from there, and then I've spent a lot of money to fly back a whole bunch of times since
Yeah,
I
that's
left.
painful.
So I'm like,
That's
can
painful.
we? So San Diego will be
Sorry.
nice the next year, right? Like it'll be like, oh, cool. Like at least I'm not flying back to the same place that I just left.
But I tried to leave. I ran away from. Yeah.
But my dad will be happy. I'll get to hang out with him. But
Yay,
I'm
that's
always down to help in any way that I can. And I don't
Absolutely,
need
thank
anything
you.
for it. But I'm a big fan of She Podcast. So feel free to put me to work because I do have the utmost respect
Absolutely.
for you and Elsie and everything that you're doing. And I want everything to be sustainable. I want it to be a huge success because that's what it deserves
you.
to be.
Thank you. Me too. Me too, and not just for me. I want it to be sustainable too. I want it to be something that I can do over and over and over with ease. And the pandemic has made that difficult, but I'm hoping now and this event will get over that hump so that it can be a little easier. I have a lot of teammates that are very dedicated to helping me and a lot of friends like you who are dedicated to helping me. So thank you. I mean, even just having me on today is a huge help. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Well, you're very welcome. We'll make sure to make lots of little clips of this and put it all over the internet and get some movement towards those sponsorship packages. So,
Yay. Thank you.
yeah, absolutely. Well, Jessica, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's always nice to see your face and hang out
too.
with you for sure.
Yeah.
You too. Thank you guys so much for having me. It's been
Thank you.
delightful. I've missed you. I'm glad we got a chance to talk today.
Me too. And so, before we go, what is the best thing people can do? Go to shepodcast.com and buy a ticket? Is that the short answer?
Yeah, She Podcast Live. If you want to learn more about that, shepodcastlive.com. We're also doing an award show this year. So
yeah.
if you know
Ooh,
a podcaster,
like the Dundies.
perhaps the one you're listening to right now, that fits into one of the categories, you can go to sonicbloomawards.com and nominate someone for all different kinds of categories, Podcaster of the Year and Gender Justice Award and all different ones. Molly probably fits into several.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying.
Most ridiculous person. So, and before we go, I want to leave one last thing with our listeners. If you believe in something and you want to support it and you want to see it grow, then you have to actually physically support it. You have to financially support it, right? And so even if you have no intention of going to She Podcast, even if you're a dude who's like, I don't even think I'd be welcome there, which you would. We don't really discriminate unless you're a
No, we don't.
dick about it.
And there
then
are
you're
male
not allowed to be.
attendees.
Don't come to She Podcast and create a man cave, okay? Because that's the opposite
right.
of what She
Right,
Podcast
right.
is all about.
Yeah.
Maybe work on a man library might serve you better, but I digress. You can still buy a ticket to She Podcast and not go. You can go on there and say,
And you can
I'm
do
going to
a
buy
giveaway.
10 today and I'm not going to go. I'm not even going to give these to other people. I'm just basically throwing a couple bucks at this event and this mission and everything that it represents. And you don't,
That would be
it doesn't
cool.
have, like, I love to pay it forward and you buy a ticket and that's cool. I love that. But you could also just buy it. And I come from somebody who did events for 20 years. Okay. I RSVP. I go to Alex Sanfilippo's Pod Pro events just to be another member in the audience. I show up. I support. I don't, I would buy tickets to my homies' events back in DC. No intention of going. I would not ask for the guest list every time. I'll pay the $12 online, help you sell another ticket. So you don't have to go to She Podcast to go on there right now, log in and buy a ticket and not even worry about giving it to somebody else. Just support the event to the tune of one ticket, you know? It's really not that much, even if you're looking at the sponsorship packages and you go, I really can't pull that off. But, you know, we could buy 3 of these tickets and then delete the Eventbrite email and keep it moving, you know? And there's no harm in that, because at the end of the day, that money goes right back into the till, and it helps keep the whole thing sustainable. And everybody wins in that sense. You know, that way you can still contribute without having to be a big time sponsor. And especially if you're somebody who just likes to do nice stuff without recognition, like I'm a sucker for a GoFundMe. I have donated to so many people's GoFundMes that I randomly found on Facebook. And I'm like, that's some sad shit. I'm going to throw you $20.
I know. I do the same thing. I got to stay off that site. It's a money sucker right out of my wallet. I cannot stop.
So instead of like, She Podcast could be like, that's some happy stuff. And I want to support that even though I'm not going. You could live in another country. You could live in California. You could be a dude. You could be anybody on the planet, and you could still buy a ticket to She Podcast and support the movement that way. So if that rings any bells, don't waste any time. Head over to the website right now and buy a couple tickets and support the things that matter.
This is such a good idea. I think I'm gonna ask that of the audience. If you can't go this year, buy a ticket and do a giveaway. It will help immensely. Buy a ticket and do a giveaway. Not even just to get people to come, although like you said, just throw the ticket away if you don't want to come, but like just to support. But what a cool thing to do though if you can't go.
Yeah, I mean, people are paying it forward in Starbucks lines for people who can afford Starbucks. So, like, instead of that,
right?
You know, because what happens is the people that do come quite often are people that are saving a lot of money to get there. They're sharing rooms with other women to cut down on expenses. They're eating apples and oranges in their room to offset some of the expenses. You're doing an Instacart order like I did with some wine delivered to your rooms.
Yeah, actually, this year we're serving breakfast every day.
See, so you know. By making sure the event is, you know,
but it does
happening,
help to make sure everyone gets breakfast. Yes.
Then it goes a long way with the community, and it could change somebody's life in there. I mean, there's people who are disabled there. There's young Black queer people there. I've never seen a young Black queer people in any other podcast. Like you've created such a safe space for everybody there, and I just think it's so important. So enough of my soapboxing, but yeah, go buy a ticket. Become a sponsor. If you're about that life, then put your money where your mouth is, especially if you're a bigger company. And if you're reporting like $1 billion or millions of dollars in profits last year and you haven't sponsored She Podcast, like, I don't know who you think is on your platform, but it's a whole bunch of women. So you might want to really consider taking some of those millions of dollars that you just reported on Pod News last week and throw them towards a community of women. Okay? So,
yeah.
Oh my.
And then lastly, if there are awards, you better damn well vote for Camp Content.
That's
for whatever
right.
the heck we're in.
That's right. Nominate her, vote for her if you love her, and how could you not?
There you go.
Episode of the year, Camp Content.
That's right. That's right.
Podcast.
That's right. So on that
I don't know about all
note,
that, but thank you. I love you. Thank you.
I love you right back, and I can't wait to see you in a couple of months.
Me too.
In the flesh.
All of it.
Excellent. All right. Thank you so much. And we will see you.
Thank you so much.
We will see you in Washington, D.C. for She Podcast. What are the exact dates again?
June 19, 2021. No, wait. June 21, 22. Nope. Hold on. Fuck me.
Late June.
It's in June.
No, it's like.
If you go to the website, you'll find it out yourself.
19th, 20, 21.
There you go.
19th through the 22nd. Shit, I'm sorry.
You know, shepodcast.com is everything you need to know. And we'll make sure
Just
we
go to
have
the website.
We'll put all the links in the bottom, and we'll put the dates right in the show notes so everybody has it.
Thank you.
And if you are planning on going, hit us up at Heartcast Media so we can plan a little rendezvous. We'll probably be at the Shore booth most of the time. We're going to crash that party, if you will. But not really. We love Shore products. So we'll probably be hanging out with Laura quite a bit. So if you are coming to She Podcast, definitely hit us up. We'd love to meet you. We'd love to chop it up with you. Maybe do a shot of whiskey at the bar. Just kidding.
Yeah. There's a lot of bars.
That's right. That's right.
Bars.
That's right. All right. On that note, note, thank you all for tuning in to Camp Content. We appreciate your time. If you found this relevant or valuable, or you know of some people who would like to sponsor She Podcast, go ahead and send them my number. No, I'm just kidding. Send them this podcast and hope they get engaged, right? To all you DEI experts out there, let's see what's up. Let's see what you got. So on that note, we'll catch you next week on Camp Content. Have a great Saturday.
Produced by Heartcast Media.